church or your neighbors next door, the more you have this back and forth communication, the more that relationship grows. And so when your children are narrating material that they've been reading, they are building a relationship with that material. And it's why it's such a valuable thing to do in a Charlotte Mason education. And I didn't know this when my kids were young and at home, but it works. The relationship building happens even if they don't enjoy it. Even if they don't like narrating, it still does the thing. In addition to being a relationship building activity, it literally shapes the way that you think. Now, I don't have time to do this, so I will just tell you about it for a minute. But I've done this experiment many times where I've done a picture study with people, and I've put up a picture, Charlotte Mason style, let everybody look at it for a minute, and divided the room in half. And I let one half narrate to their neighbor, just in pairs, about what happened in the picture. And then I tell the other half of the room that they're going to have a different kind of picture study lesson, and I ask them questions, the most inane questions that I can think of, usually involving numbers, like how many this and how many that. And a lot of times they can't be answered because nobody took the time to count whatever it was. And I will ask them, did my questions make you feel dumb? Because that's what happens in school. When the teacher asks questions and the kids can't answer, then they feel dumb because they can't answer what were dumb questions to begin with. And I'll ask them this: did I ruin your relationship with the picture? Which I totally did. But also, I'll ask both groups, next week when I put up a picture for picture study, what are you going to be doing? If you know you're going to be narrating, while you look at that picture, you are going to be forming sentences in your mind. You're going to be looking for the vocabulary to describe what you're seeing. It's going to be very, very holistic and interactive. And I asked the other group, what are you guys going to be doing? And they're like, counting things. Do you see what I mean? What we do, these educational practices, are teaching our children how to think, even though that's not officially what we're doing. And children who narrate naturally think in a whole way. They make connections. And so narration is all of those things. That's how it works. It's why it works. And it's the one thing you never, ever want to stop doing in a Charlotte Mason homeschool. And we all have bad days. But here's the thing. No single individual narration is of any great significance. It's the consistency of narrating that makes the difference. And so that matters. And I can't give you a whole narration talk. Sorry, we don't have time for that. But here's the thing. If you've got kids who've been narrating, they narrated orally for 3 or 4 years, and they became very, very fluent. Into then 9 or 10, you introduce written narration, and they've been doing written narrations for a couple of years. Somewhere around 11 or 12, if not sooner, they will be so tired of the tell it back kind of narration. And creative narration, see, narration is telling what you know, but there's a lot of ways that you can do that, not just relating it back directly. There's lots of ways you can narrate. This is a creative narration workshop, and I'm going to read a story. I'm going to make it a little bit easy by reading a story that will probably be quite familiar, but I'm going to read it whole so that you can focus on some of the details that you might not just have in your head. And then we should have 10 groups. I hope we have 10 groups. Where's my helper person? Oh, there you are. Do we have 10 groups? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let you start this. Every group needs a single folder, but do not open them. No opening, no fair. So there are 10, and I would carry the box. Be careful, be really careful. They all have things in them that could fall out, but some of them do anyway. So yeah, give each group this, but no peeking. So everybody's going to be given a narration assignment that will be best managed as a group. And so I'm going to read the story, and then we're going to do our narrations. I'm going to allow about 15 minutes for that, so that's what you've got. to do your narration assignment in your group, but then we're going to share with the whole room, okay? One of the things that we're going to do, and I'm going to spend a moment talking about this before we get started while she's passing out the assignments. No peeking at the assignments until after we've done our story. So you have to be prepared to narrate regardless of what the assignment is. And so, okay, do we have 10? Do we have too many tables now? All right. Before you open your narration assignments, before we start in on the creative part of it, we are going to take a minute for silent narration. And I mean it, 1 minute by the clock for silent narration. And I will ask you all to narrate what I've read to yourself silently, and then before you do your narration. Silent narration is hardly mentioned in Charlotte Mason's volumes. I mean, not at all as concerns children. The only time she mentions silent narration is when she's talking to the adults. She said, oh, you should read an article and then narrate it silently to yourself. It's the only time she mentions it. But the reality is that silent narration was practiced in Charlotte Mason PNEU schools, particularly with children